If you're doing all the work yourself, you might be playing the game wrong. Most people are taught from a young age that hard work is the path to success. Work longer, work harder, outperform everyone around you. And while that sounds right, it's only part of the truth. Because if you study power, real power, you'll notice something uncomfortable. The people who rise the fastest are not always the ones doing the most work. They're the ones who understand leverage. This is Law 7 from the 48 Laws of Power. Get others to do the work for you, but always take the full credit. Now, let's be honest. This can be one of the most severe and one of the most manipulative laws in Robert Greene's entire book. And before we go any further, I want to make something very clear. You may not agree with this law, you may not want to use this law, but that does not make you safe from it. In fact, it may make you more vulnerable to it. Because whether you choose to use this law or not, millions of other people understand this law. This book is a New York Times bestseller. It's been translated into over 20 languages and sold millions of copies worldwide. And that doesn't even include the people who have learned these ideas through YouTube, TikTok, social media, or secondhand exposure. Realistically, we're talking about tens of millions of people who at least have a functional understanding of these principles. And within that group, there is certainly a large number of people who fully intend to use these laws to their advantage, including this law, especially this law. So even if it doesn't sit right with you, you cannot afford to be naive. Because the people who refuse to use this law are often the exact people it gets used on. The more passive, the more agreeable, and the more trusting that you are, the more attractive you become to someone who understands leverage and manipulation. And that's just the uncomfortable truth. So at the very least, you need to understand this law so that you can recognize it, defend against it, and avoid becoming someone else's stepping stone. Because naivety will cost you. Now, let's break down what Robert Greene actually says. He explains it very directly. Use the wisdom, knowledge, and legwork of other people to further your own cause. And when done correctly, you will be perceived as someone who can get things done faster than anyone else. Someone efficient, someone powerful, and someone with momentum. But here's what's really happening beneath the surface. You're not moving faster because you're doing more. You're moving faster because other people are doing the work for you and you are positioning yourself at the center of the result. That's leverage. That's how people scale their impact. And that's how many people climb hierarchies, especially in corporate environments. Think about it. At the highest levels, CEOs, executives, leaders, they are not doing every task. They are not building everything themselves. They are coordinating, directing, and owning outcomes. And along the way, whether consciously or unconsciously, they take credit for results that involved many people. Now, to be fair, many of these individuals are highly skilled, they are super intelligent, and they bring tremendous value. But they also understand this principle. If you want to rise, you cannot do everything yourself. You must leverage others. And in many cases, you must take full ownership of the result, even when others contributed heavily to it. Here's where this becomes very real for you. If you're a young employee, or a new employee, or someone with strong ideas and a good work ethic, you need to be extremely careful. Because one of the easiest ways for someone to use this law is to position themselves above you, encourage you to contribute ideas, how you do meaningful work, and then present that work as their own. And if you're not paying attention, you'll walk into that trap over and over again, especially if you're someone who doesn't like conflict, someone who doesn't want to take credit, someone who just wants to do a good job. That mindset, while admirable, can be dangerous because in environments where power matters, credit matters, visibility matters, perception matters. And if someone else is controlling that perception, they are controlling your trajectory. There's also an interesting dynamic that can happen. When two people both understand these laws, when two high-level operators are interacting, it becomes a completely different game. Now, both people are cautious. Both people are aware of traps. Both are careful with information. Both may be laying red herrings. They don't hand over ideas freely. They watch positioning. They anticipate strategy. And in those situations, it often comes down to execution, awareness, and timing. But when one person understands the law and the other person doesn't, that's where imbalance happens. That's where manipulation becomes easy. That's where one person builds and the other person benefits. Again, even if you never plan to use this law, you must understand it. Now, let's talk about the proper way to think about this, because there's a difference between manipulation and intelligent leverage. The wrong way to use this law is to exploit people, take without giving, build a reputation as someone untrustworthy. That will eventually catch up to you. The right way is to build systems, build teams, and create outcomes that involve others, while positioning yourself as the leader of that outcome. You leverage others, but you also create value. You take ownership, but you also elevate the people around you. Because the ultimate goal is not to take from others, it's to build something that is bigger than what you could do alone, and to be the one who leads it. So if you've been grinding nonstop, doing everything yourself, and wondering why you're not getting ahead, this might be the shift that you need. Stop thinking like a worker and start thinking like a strategist. Because power doesn't go to the person who does the most work. It goes to the person who controls the outcome, directs the outcome, communicates the outcome, and then takes full credit for the outcome. Once you understand that, you start playing a completely different game.